Hello and welcome to week 143. If you are new here, you know that we are the only team, Real Estate Raccoons, and the spring team that has been tracking the market for 143 weeks in a row now without any stopping. We do this because we realized early on during COVID that things were changing really, really fast. So looking at the market every single week versus waiting for the month's data to come out and then reporting on it was not really the right strategy. So we decided to do this every single week to make sure that you know what's going on right now versus what happened last month, which is much less relevant. And on top of that, we've also narrowed it down to 5 specific communities, which makes the numbers super relevant to where our clients typically transact. So this week, I really got a lot out of Benjamin Tall's report. I don't know if you know Benjamin Tall. He's an economist with CIBC. Always comes up with some amazing level-headed commentary. And this week, he had a ton of really great information to put out there. So, like, why reinvent the wheel? I'm going to talk to you about what he went through, and then, of course, adding a little bit of my usual color that I do. I do have a link to download his report. I'm not sure if it's been fully circulated yet. Luckily, my aunt, who was with CIBC as an economist for many, many, many years, she gets these from him and sends them to me as soon as they come out, which is really, really nice because I get to give you the information before it's really out there completely. So one really interesting thing about what Benjamin Tall said this week, and if you open up the report, you can kind of follow along. He talked a lot about all the things that we've usually been talking about. But one thing he highlighted was, sure, prices are down from February by 20% across the country. Of course, that's very different for Toronto, and other cities are reacting very differently to what's going on out there right now. But when you look at that 20%, when you dig into those numbers a little bit more, what he discovered was that 50% of that 20% were mainly in the more expensive segment of the market, detached houses, things like that. Whereas the majority of properties that the average Canadian is buying regularly is much less affected. And on top of that, we're seeing really no new listings added to the market, despite the insanely low sales numbers that we're seeing out there. So let me take you through the blog real quick. You can kind of follow along with me. It's super early, so I don't have it on the website yet, so you're going to have to wait for it to be on the website. I'm not sure when I'm going to be posting this, but here's the link to read his actual report. We can click on through just so I have that open there for you. But going back to the actual thing, this really interesting quote here, sorry, that's not really interesting quote. This is just kind of what he opened the post with, which is nothing really new that we had. People were incentivized to get into the market during COVID with low rates, blah, 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 blah. You don't need me to tell you that over and over and over again. But of course, everything changed in March of 2022. In his words, the future arrived. So that's when all the tightening started to happen. That's when things started to really, really slow down. So a lot of people did go to market at that time who needed to sell, which represented a serious influx of new listings. Like, for example, around March or in April and heading into June, we had 625 houses for sale. Today, we pulled back almost 50 units to 471. Again, proving that we do not have people panic selling at this time, probably settling into the holidays a little bit. And so what is this? A crash correction or simply a realignment and reallocation of activity over time? And honestly, you could focus on the word crash. And listen, last week's market update headline was maybe a little clickbaity, but overall, I'd prefer to focus on the more calm verbiage here. And words matter, obviously. So looking at specific supply, and that's a very interesting point that he also brought up in his report here, that there is a listings drought out there. We have a serious problem with available properties. There are some clients that we have on the team that cannot find what they want to buy right now. They are looking all over the place, like especially in the lower price points. We have one client who just finally was successful on her 10th attempt at buying a condo around $500,000. So moving on from that, I mean, it's not what you're hearing in the news every single day. Like, we have clients that are competing for properties every single day, but nobody's really talking about that because it's more exciting to talk about how there's this potential crash or like this is bad, there's more pain and all this kind of stuff. But when you dig into it, like, what does pain really mean? It means nothing to the average Canadian. So looking back at condo listings, we have another pullback. This was over 1,600 not that long ago. So now we are at under 1,600, and that should continue to drop as we head deeper into the holidays. What's really going to be interesting is to see what happens December the 7th onward. After December the 7th, when the next interest rate hike happens, we don't know where it's going to go at that point. But what's more important is not what's going to happen on the 7th, is what they say is going to happen at the next announcement. So, it's no secret what's going to happen at the next announcement because they tell us at the previous one what they're going to do. We just don't know by how much they're going to increase the rates. Are they going to mess with stress tests? Are they going to mess with, whatever? There is going to be some more news on the 7th that I'm really interested in getting back to you guys on. So we talked about a listings drought, but we also talked about sales dropping significantly. In here, he talks about sales being down 35% from the February peak. But when you look at numbers like 471 and 1554, this represents a 58% drop in the number. If you look at numbers like 50 and 73, these 50 represents a 58% drop in the number of sales for urban houses. 73 represents a 68% drop in the number of condo sales week over week. We're normally seeing over 200 condos sold and over 100 houses sold in that same period. So, and I have that listed over here. So even with that decreased sales activity, to have listings be pulling back to the point where we are in what we would be in normal seller's market territory, under 2 months of inventory for houses and under 2 months of inventory just over 2 months of inventory for condos, would normally represent a pretty good seller's market in a lot of cases. Zooming down to a very interesting neighborhood here, the Leaside, Davisville, Young, and Eglinton community, only 34 listings. That's down from over 50 just 2 weeks ago. This is historically one of the most undersupplied communities and the most in-demand community in Toronto. Here we go. Let's get rid of that. So, neighborhoods overall are pulling back in supply week over week over week over week, with the odd kind of flux here and there. I did include some of the charts from Benjamin Tall's report this week. And another interesting point that he did bring up was that, sure, there is a 20% drop in price from the peak to now, so to speak. But when you compare it to other declining markets, you have to look at where the prices came down, but also relative to how they came up. This is one of the more milder decreases. A lot of people were predicting a much more aggressive price correction at this point, which we're not actually seeing, and we have seen in other down markets. So that's a really interesting a thing that was highlighted. And like I said earlier on in this video, 50% of the 20% drop from the peak in February was due to the prices of detached homes, the most expensive segment of the market. So like I said, the majority of homes and houses and condos that Canadians are buying are not as affected as you might think. So those people that are looking for those crazy big deals out there just are not finding them. But of course, there are some. We've got some for some of our clients who have been like super persistent. So they do exist, just not at the level you might think. So, and of course, I've got some more charts in here. But overall, I feel really, really good about the future of our city and our country. Oh, we got a little typo here. Holidays. Let's fix that right now. And I'm really choosing to move forward with some more epic positivity, some calm. And I really think that 2023 is going to be that year for a lot of people just to chill, not worry so much about the real estate market doing this or doing that. There's not going to be that FOMO. There's not going to be that, did I overpay? Like, I think that rhetoric is going to change after they stop the aggressive hike cycle. I think people are just going to settle into whatever new normal we have in terms of a rate environment, in terms of inflation, whatever. Let me get my pretty face back up here so you guys can see me. So I really feel like 2023 is going to be painful in a sense that, prices aren't going to rebound to where some people might need them to get out of a property they don't want anymore. But it's still going to present an amazing opportunity for folks who want to move up into a more expensive asset that would have cost them a ton of money at the peak, but now there's a six-figure savings built in there. It's going to present an opportunity for people to get into the market when they otherwise couldn't. But of course, we have to keep an eye on what's going to happen with unemployment. We're currently sitting at around 5.5%, which is like far from the peak of COVID when we were at like 16% or 14 to 16%. But in reality, the jobs that were lost earlier in COVID are not the same jobs that are being lost right now in this aggressively bloated tech industry, which is seeing cuts across the board. Like, I'm in the States right now. It's definitely happening here. It's definitely happening in Toronto as one of the tech hubs of Canada. So we really have to see how those job losses are going to affect the market going forward. And how do job losses affect the market? Well, if these people are typical home buyers and sellers. They're typical homeowners this time, losing their jobs. How long can they afford to keep their homes while they're looking for new employment opportunities? I am of the opinion that a lot of these people aren't insanely over leveraged and do have a good amount of runway to wait out what's happening and not fire sale their homes. Are there going to be fire sales? Sure, maybe one here or there, but I don't think it's going to affect the market enough to correct prices even further than they've already gone. I think we've already seen that adjustment slow down and that line level out. I don't think we're going to see another drastic drop in 2023. But like I said, we can't control what's happening elsewhere in the world. There could be other economic triggers that do make something like that happen. But right now, if things move along as they are, with inflation either staying flat or improving month over month, and employment not going beyond that like 6.5 to 7% as we get into 2023 onward, I really feel like we have a really positive end to 2023, and buyers should be coming back en masse in 2024 as rates start to normalize again. But remember, rates are not going to come down as quickly as they went up. So there's a long runway there. But the whole point is buyer sentiment is going to improve, and we will probably see a much better result as we head into 2024 from 2023. So I'm going to leave it there, and don't forget to subscribe. Like, Real Estate Raccoons is probably the best YouTube channel that exists. So like, I'm going to need your support there. And of course, your calm commentary is always welcome. We had some aggressive emails from the last video that we put out last week. So let's keep that to a minimum. But love you all, and thank you so much.